What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Build or Rebuild, where we take a series of NHL and NBA teams that we feel need to retool or rebuild, and we talk about what moves that they should make in the offseason. So today, we've got Philadelphia 76ers.
So this playoffs, Philadelphia had a fantastic opportunity to not only go deeper, but to win the championship with all the injuries, all the players going down.
Yeah.
Brooklyn not being in competition. And on paper, this is a team that very well could beat Milwaukee
Yeah.
and Phoenix or the Clippers, whoever were to be in the finals or get in their way. But Ben Simmons is not a number two.
He took 3 shots
Yes, he did not
in
play.
the fourth quarter in the entire series.
Yeah, he did not play in the fourth quarter in Game 7. And a guy...
Or he didn't play in the last minute of the fourth quarter.
Like in the clutch.
Yeah.
And a guy who made $29 million this year, and by the end of his contract, he'll be making $38. It's a lot of money for a guy you're going to bench when you need him most. He's making more than Joel Embiid right now, who played his heart out. And right now, him and Seth Curry are the only guys I can rationalize keeping around on this team.
Yep.
Tobias Harris isn't bad, a little overpaid.
Yeah.
But he's not a second option. Whoever they get for Ben Simmons or whatever they do with that money has to be a legitimate second option.
Yeah.
Or, they can kiss what would have been their best chance goodbye. Because they won't be back.
Yeah. And the reason I think that Ben Simmons is going to be traded is because they're into the luxury tax right now. So in order to get out of that, they need to lose $7 million. Well, what better than losing $33 million and creating that? It's about $25 million in cap space, which obviously some of that would be eaten up by what you get back from them because they're not going to get just draft picks because Ben Simmons is not necessarily worth just young prospects. I think those are too valuable. They have to take on some money as well.
At the very least, he needs a change of scenery. It doesn't mean... they're trading him and whichever team's going to have to just kind of take it. He can be a good player for another team if he can regain his confidence.
Yeah.
He was just voted for DPOY, or he was a nominee.
Yep.
So there is some value. He's 24. He has potential, but I don't think it'll ever be realized in Philadelphia.
No. And I just think that fan base and that Philadelphia market has turned against him so heavily that there's no way to continue.
This playoffs has brought a lot of unforgiveness for players that kind of have to go now.
Yeah.
And he is on the top of that list.
And at some point you just have to think of what needs to change to get over that hump because they haven't been able to.
I think it's a complete restructure and you can't bring back Ben Simmons when although Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers didn't mention him by name, they made it very clear that they were disappointed.
Well, they asked Doc Rivers straight up. They said, can Ben Simmons be a point guard on a championship team? And he said, I can't answer that right now.
Yeah.
So he was pretty straight up about it right there. Ben Simmons, I think, is probably the first one to tell you that he did not perform how he should have.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where both parties need to move on from this. And that's where you start in a retooling because this team is... When you have Joel Embiid, when you have Tobias Harris, just Joel Embiid alone is just too strong of a team to just go through a full-scale rebuild. Yeah. And I think the way that the East is structured, Philadelphia can still have long-term success.
Yep.
But they have to figure out what they got to gauge the market of what type of return they can get back for Ben Simmons.
Yep.
And
then what about Tobias Harris?
I don't think Tobias Harris was a problem. I think he played and tried.
He played well. It's his cap. Can you utilize that a little better?
Yeah, and I think that's a very hard contract to trade for Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a great player, but at $35 million, I expect him to be possibly a number 1 on some teams, but at number 2. And I don't think he's that guy. No. I think he can make up a big 3, but he's definitely the 3.
Yeah.
It's like that Miami big 3 with James, Wade, and Bosh. Like, he has to be the Bosh.
Yep.
So I think that's a little too much money to do that with. I'm sure someone would take him, but it all depends on what you can get back.
And back to Ben Simmons, just imagine he was in trade talks for James Harden. That
Yeah.
very much would have been the preferred route for this team.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen. And now I don't know what they can get for Ben Simmons, or at least for that cap, to get that second piece they need to go deep.
Yeah. And I think a logical move would be Kyle Lowry wants to come to Philadelphia. If they can work out a sign and trade and the Raptors take on Ben Simmons, because the Raptors are a team where they didn't make the playoffs this year, but they could use someone, especially on the defensive end, like Ben Simmons. And I think they're geared up a little more offensively, especially in terms of guards, that there is a lot of other scoring around him. The expectations will be a little lower in Toronto, again, because they've won something recently, whereas the expectations are super high in Philadelphia because they haven't won in a very long time.
I think it would be a win-win because it gives Toronto some value.
Yeah.
The loss of Kawhi would hurt less.
Yeah.
Now you're eating a lot of cap,
Yeah.
but and you're losing the best player your franchise has ever had. Maybe not the most talented, but the most important player your franchise has ever had.
Yeah.
But he's aging.
He is aging.
So yeah,
And I think he'd fit well on Philadelphia.
It could help with Toronto's rebuild, and for him, he could have another playoff run at home.
Yeah.
And be that leader alongside Joel Embiid. But I would say if they can make that trade happen, they still would need another piece. Lowry with his age may not be enough, and maybe have a big four.
I think picks would probably have to go the other way.
To Toronto?
I think on both sides, like there'd be picks involved, and I don't know what other like it's tough to say right now.
It's tough because of the contract.
Yeah.
I don't see this trade happening, but it is.
It's something that's
yeah.
It's something to think about, just knowing how much Kyle Lowry, has had a desire to play in Philly.
Yep.
And knowing that the Raptors are retooling themselves.
Yep.
So that'll do it for this episode of Build or Rebuild. Thanks for watching. Comment down below any takes that you have on the 76ers. Make sure to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe so you don't miss any of our other uploads. We've got weekly, daily uploads. And with that, that'll do it for this episode. We'll see you next time. Peace.